I want to talk to you about something that happened 2 days ago that I'm going to fit into this. I don't know if it really goes in order of what I wanted to do about humans, but I was having a conversation with my dad Friday. He's 88. And in that conversation, something rose up in my heart. And in that, he was telling me the story of my mom and him and their journey with Jesus. And he said to me, I look back over my life and he said, I just think, man, that was stupid. Because he was talking about all the places that he trusted God. And looking back, he goes, it just looks stupid looking back, but in the moment, I trusted God. And I was part of most of that. I was born in 1965. They had been married for 6 years when I was born. And I remembered a lot of the stories he started telling, how he came to be here in Douglasville, how they moved. And I just got overwhelmed, and I felt the Lord drop something in my heart. And I told Dad, I said, I just think God spoke to me something for our house Sunday, and I want to share it. So this just kind of comes from that conversation that I want to hopefully inspire you to something today. Here's my prayer. My prayer that I've been praying for all of us during the week when I come here and walk around the room and pray for it is that this message is going to shift your life in a different direction for the good. And that God is going to open up a revelation for you. And my prayer is that when you walk out the doors today, I know this sounds really like a bold ask, but I believe God can do it. That when you walk out the door today, you will forever be different in the way you think about what's going on. And that's what I want to challenge you with. Here's the picture. How could God put a woman and a man in the perfect place, in the perfect bodies, with the perfect mission, with all authority, lacking nothing, everything provided for you, and you didn't even ask for it, it was done. That first man and woman in our Bible, Adam and Eve, in a garden God created with bodies God gave them. Ponder this because we'll go here next week to talk about evil, but for this week, there's no evil there. There's no in-laws. I make jokes about that all the time. There's no exes. There's no addiction rehab centers. It's just the two of you. So it's really kind of hard to be a victim when there's just two of you. It's really kind of hard to blame somebody else when there's nothing to blame. You've just been created, I would say, almost perfect, if not perfect, because God says of that creation, they're in my image. However, the story goes like this. By the time we're 3 chapters in, that woman begins to have a conversation with what we call a snake. I don't know if it was, but a serpent. She begins to conversate with a serpent, and in one failed decision, she trades it all out. And that is a marvel to me, because what are you trading out? You have everything you could ever want. What is it that you don't have that you want? What is it that you're going to let go of? And so most of you know this about me, I'm a big Genesis person. I kind of live there in my life of trying to figure this out, just that book. And it makes me marvel that this woman and this man would do such. And the thing that rose in my heart is that she lost divine expectation. Because the Bible says that the God that created them would come down in the cool of the day and walk with them and talk with them. Now you have to either be really stubborn or really in your own head space to know that by, let's say, 5 p.m. maybe, in the cool of the evening, that the God that created you is going to come down and have coffee with you. He's going to chit-chat with you. He's going to have a conversation with his creation. And obviously you know this because in the cool of the day, the story goes, they knew he was coming. They were afraid. They even hid themselves because they knew, I guess, this is kind of the time he shows up. And so we find them in the story hiding from God. So what would make them, if they're knowing, let's say, this is all speculation, but it helps my head. by 5 o'clock, the Creator's going to come and chat with us. What would make you at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. go, I think I would rather grab this and test it a minute? And test something that goes on in every human. Let's read it. Here it is in Genesis 3, verse 6. It says, the woman was convinced, like something clicked in her, that herself was more powerful than God. Self began to take over. And this is how powerful we are as humans. We are so powerful that God gave us emotions that are so powerful that those emotions could take the seat of God. That's right. Now that's a risk. When you are God and you create beings that are in your image, then what you're naturally doing is giving them a potentiality of emotion and feelings, so that at any given time they could put you on the back burner and step into their selves and their feelings become their God. And they lose divine expectation. Meaning, I'm no longer excited about the 5 o'clock visit. I'm more excited about the 2 p.m. moment that's going to bless me now. I don't want to wait on him to get here. I want to seize the moment now for myself. It says this about her, and this picks up the power of the human psyche. She saw that it was beautiful, okay, like God wasn't. Like God's ugly. She saw that it looked delicious. Are you kidding me? He gave you every other tree as a potential. So every other tree's now ugly and not delicious and terrible? How do you know it's delicious? You've never tasted it. It just looks delicious. Meaning this, that your emotions are so powerful that you can perceive a reality that's not reality and move toward that reality, and the whole time the reality is a lie. That's what you have to be careful of. You are so powerful as a human that your emotions can skew a reality so much so that that reality that is skewed becomes your truth. And now God is in the back corner. And what happens is, she says, and this is where it gets really interesting, we'll dig it out next week. She wanted that wisdom. Now, the moment it says she wanted the wisdom, what it says, and it's true for everybody, I'm lumping myself with you because we're all human. What it says to me is, at any given moment, on any given day, the expectations upon your own self can become your God. And you will live life fighting for your own self, saving your own self, working life out for your own self, and you never even wake up expecting God to intervene except in a depressed state of desperation. Because what she lost was the expectation of God coming. Why? Because there was no crisis. Most Christians only expect God in a crisis. Oh, please pray for me. All hell's breaking loose. Okay, were you that desperate before hell started breaking loose? Did you want His presence before you hit rock bottom? Did you want His glory when everything was good? Or do we only seek Him when we hit rock bottom and we're in a hellhole? I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, well, was that in you before you ever got to the bottom? And that's what this story teaches us. This story teaches us that the human psyche is so powerful that I will choose myself over God because my own expectations override what I thought about Him, wished about Him. Because here's the truth of humans. When life is good, God's in the hip pocket. And we live us. And we keep him back there like a four-leaf clover or lucky rabbit's foot. So when life goes bad, I'll pull him out and go, okay, come on, God. You got to save my marriage. You got to heal me, God. And I'm like, were you that desperate before you fell apart? Now, remove yourself from a story some 6,000 years ago and ask yourself today, what is being handed to you on a platter? It's not coming from a serpent. It's not coming in a fruit. It's coming at you that knowledge is so powerful, because that was the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. And what is being handed to everybody in this room today is knowledge. You don't really need God, Mark. Trust yourself. Google it. Go to YouTube. I made a joke with somebody. I said, do you know I would probably be famous today? Like just brilliantly famous. A musician of all musicians. If I could have had YouTube when I hungered to play the guitar. No, in my day when I hungered to play the guitar, I had to get an 8-track and shove it in with a matchbook so it wouldn't double track. Anybody old enough to remember double tracking? You'd have to stick a matchbook in there to keep that thing from going, and playing the back mask while you're trying to listen to the front, with the guitar going, trying to wind it back, and then you try to listen again. What did he just do? Wind it back, try to listen again. And then, just so you know how fleshly you can become, it would eat the whole tape. And you would have to pull it out, and the tape would still be in there, and you'd be doing this. We spent years unwinding tapes that were eaten. Anybody remember those days? Oh, what I would give today just to say, what is that lick that Eric Clapton is playing on that song in Vienna Opera House? And I'll get 5,000 YouTube videos. I don't even need to pray. Everything I need is at the click of a button. So that what happens today is God's people lose divine expectation. We don't really expect Him to work until we fall apart. We don't really need Him as Christians until it falls apart. I saw more people getting desperately involved with God when we just watched Trump or Kamala get in. I'm telling you, we're all in it. Like, oh my God. And it just depends on which side of the Christian world you fall on. There's either people going, we've just elected an orange-haired devil, I can't believe it. And then there's other people going, praise God, the Lord has involved Himself in our nation. And the reality is, most of those people that were so desperate a few weeks ago suddenly lose desperation, just go, well, I just guess we got to get on with living. Probably going to be thrown into Nazi camps, and then there's another whole group of people, oh my God, the stock market's going to soar. We're finally going to get to send everybody back to other countries. But it shows me something about Christians. We get caught up in the simplest things because we have more expectations for what humans can do than what God can do. I have more irritations about what humans are doing than to cause me to go into my closet and go, God, I really don't give a rip what humans are doing. I want to know what you're up to. I want to know what to expect out of you. Do you know that there are more Christians who know what to expect out of Donald Trump than what to expect out of God? Do you know there were more people who voted for Kamala Harris expecting that she would do something than they do out of God? Do you know that there are people sitting in churches today who have more expectation for the football that's about to come at noon with the Atlanta Falcons fingers crossed than they do that God is going to do something? Do you know that there are more people excited about Christmas and Thanksgiving than waking up on a Monday morning and go, God, what do you want to do today? What do you want to do today, God? Because that was the first problem of the first humans. They lost, what do you want to say to me today, God? What do you want to talk to me about today, God? And I got into myself, and what I know about self is it becomes God really quick, and the voice of self begins to speak like so loud that I lose any expectation of God doing anything. How do I know it works? Because it works every week in me anyway, and I love the Lord, and it still talks to me. My own soul talks to me. To come to the front row and to sit on the front row and go, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready. Well, why'd Phil read that verse? I wouldn't have read that verse. And then all of a sudden, the music comes on. And it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, I don't like that song. It's too loud. Oh, my God. Who's mixing? It's so loud in here. I can feel the bass kicking in my heart. What if I have a heart attack? I could have a heart attack. And suddenly, just as we all can be humans, we have likes, we have dislikes. I like the lights up, I like them low, I like it loud, I like that song, I don't like that song. The communion bread is good, but my God, every time I come to communion, I almost lose my sanity trying to get this eternal cup open. While Robin's going, now just worship the Lord with communion, and I'm over there going, I'm trying. And Bell's singing, come to the altar. And I'm like, I'm going to throw this at the altar. That's why I don't do these. Because my brain, I don't enjoy communion. I have to take my glasses off and try to find the little part, like, what is it doing? And then if you've ever done one of these, you'd have to be saved because the bread tastes like cardboard. It's like, oh. So what happens is, I can easily lose any expectation that something divine is supposed to happen. I'm more concerned about whether I drip the juice on the table than I'm about to connect to the living God. The same with the music. Who cares if you like it or not? It's not about us anyway, it's Him. And I need to connect with His divinity, whether I like the song or the chord progression, and I'm all about it. Like, I've been in music my entire life. I can tell if they miss a chord. I can tell if a string is out of tune. I can tell if somebody's singing flat or not. And I just have to go, who cares? It's about God, and they're a doggone good team, and they love the Lord, and my God, they're good, and they sing well, and they're passionate about God. And now I say, get all that out of the way. I just want to connect with you in this moment. Well, that shows you how powerful the human is. Because God says this of Himself, I'm in the middle of my people. He tells us that. He said, if two people come together, I'm there. That ought to just blow our mind. Like, you don't even have to work it up. I don't have to have smoke and lights. God's not out in the back going, as soon as they dim the lights, I'm coming in. I'm not coming in that song. I don't like that song. I'll hold off a minute. He says, if you just show up, I'm there. And yet we humans are so arrogant. We think that we are going to create an environment that will make Him show up. He says, just show up, and if two of you come, I'm coming. I'm your Father. Now, if I can get out of bed with divine expectation, if I can get out of bed and say, God, I want you to do something in my life, I'll ask it to you. Have you lost the divine expectation at 5 o'clock of communing with God because you've become so distracted about everything else in life? And the answer is probably yes. There's a high likelihood that most Christians today are so distracted and so busy. And it's not that they don't love God. I cannot say that Eve did not love Him. Because we know the motivation behind her was, I want to be just like Him. And I wanted to scream if I was there, you are just like Him. He made you in His image, but something in herself said, I just want to be like Him. So that tells me that the yearning of her heart was that she genuinely loved God, but she lost the expectation of Him, and she got her own expectations in the way. And I think the word the Lord dropped in my heart in my dad's office is how many people serve God but have no expectation of His power showing up. I'm not talking when you're desperate. I'm talking when everything's good and money's in the bank and you got help. You still wake up and go, I don't know what you're going to do today, but I'm believing you're going to do something. That my mother can be 85 years old laying in a bed with 3 broken bones. And she says, I don't know how this happened. I just don't know what went on. But I have been praying in the Holy Ghost the whole time, because I believe that the Spirit of the Lord in me can quicken my mortal body. And I don't know who needs to meet him, but I know I'm here, and as long as I'm here, somebody's going to get to know him. Now, that tells me you can either cop an attitude as an 85-year-old woman, why me? And she even said that. She said, I've been sitting here going, how did this happen? How did I trip on a floor with nothing on the floor? Was it the devil? And then she goes, oh, I'm not going there. She said, I'm not going to go there. She said, it doesn't matter how I got here. I'm here, and I'm a tough old bird, and my faith is going to arise. Why? It's because she's learned to stop being a victim of life and learned to start expecting the divine to show up, even if I'm in a hospital bed. Even if I'm broken, he's going to show up. And we're kind of victim mentality people, like, oh, she really needs God to show up. Honey, she needed God to show up before she got in the hospital. That mentality has to change, that only God is going to show up when you hit rock bottom. And I guess I better pray. She said she's going to file for divorce. Oh, my God, you should have been praying for divine intervention the day you got married. You should have went to the honeymoon and said, hang on, I'm going to go talk to the Lord in just a second. Believe me, it'll be a second. I'm coming right back. But you should have lived with divine expectation. And most of God's people, well, that's harsh. Many of God's people don't. We're religious. We just eat the bread with no expectation. We sing the songs not believing if God could do anything through that song or not. It's just what religious people do. I come, I throw my money into the basket, and I kind of feel good. I helped you out, God. Here's the thing, this is not about money. But just think this through. You really think God needs your money? No, but we do. Like, you think God's paying this bill on these lights? You think I can call Georgia Power and go, listen, we're really living by faith here. So I just like you to kind of roll that balance on into heaven and let the Lord take care of it. But do you know what God does to divinely intervene? He causes people to give. So now you can come and put your offering in, and you've done a good thing. You've helped lights stay on to employ Jennifer, to employ me, Robin, to employ Marlene and Nessa and Richard and Michael and Phil and missionaries and all the things we do to keep this place clean and going, and air conditioning units that have to be fixed and parking lots that have to be restriped and signs that have to be moved, water leaks that have to be done. None of that gets done for free. But watch this. If you give just going, well, I'm going to help the church, great, thank you, we need it. But do you know the moment you let go, you should expect divine intervention. You should walk away and go, well, I know he's going to bless me. Why? Because I just sowed a seed to his house. That when you walk up to this communion and you take this piece of bread and you dip it in there, and we're singing Come to the Altar, and you walk away holding it, all it is a piece of bread. All it is just a religious ceremony. But the moment you begin to, that's good bread. Juice is good. Probably should be real wine, but that would be really weird. That could really throw me for a loop there. And God designed your body that the moment that bread hits your belly, passes your tongue, and your tongue's like, here comes something. And your head goes, something's getting in the body. And the stomach goes, it's here. And then every little bitty thing, it's so over my head, I'm going to give you Mark Evans Medical School 101. Every little thing in your belly starts going, and it does something in there. You know, because some of you, as soon as you eat it, I got to go to the bathroom. It's working. Don't you tell me when you eat something's not down there working, because some of you are like, woo, I shouldn't have done that. That's God letting you know something in there's working. Some of you have to plan ahead, right? You know what I mean? Well, as soon as you eat that, your body has a divine way to start distributing those nutrients those calories, the proteins, it starts distributing it to the muscles and to all the, who do you think thought that up? And God didn't think it up just so you could enjoy a filet and go home and burp. God made it that way. Take this for whatever you want. I think God made it that way because he was looking beyond the steaks and the barbecue to a moment that Jesus would be holding bread and say, now when you eat this bread, honey child, you need to remember me. Watch this. That bread goes into my stomach. Bam! And my body starts going, Jesus is here. Oh! Jesus is here. Oh, he's resurrected. And my little body's going, resurrection, resurrection, resurrection. And it begins to disperse resurrection all to my body. Come on, somebody. Don't act like I'm nuts. Don't act like, oh my God, he's a cult. We're going to be drinking Kool-Aid in Guyana and going to see Jesus. Don't act so holy with me. The reality of it is, if I stood up here and opened this book and I said, I want to talk to you today about a tree, a bush that was burning and was talking, you'd be like, I love that story. A talking bush. Such a good story where God talks to Moses from a bush. And then I turn in the Bible and say, now I want to talk to you about a donkey that started talking. Oh, I love the talking donkey with Balaam. That just blesses my heart, a talking donkey. Then I want to talk to you about a fish so big it swallowed a fella. He lived in that belly for 3 days. You talking about the first Airbnb? It was awesome. So the title of my sermon is God's First Airbnb. Everything. And then the story goes, he vomited it up on the side, and the guy went and saved the whole nation. And everybody in the room is like, oh, that's such good preaching. A bush that talks, a well that vomits people up, and oh, man, those stories, the guys that got burned alive in a fiery furnace, but they didn't even smell like smoke. And then some preacher stands up and says, well, you know, communion could be supernatural. Your giving might be supernatural. You could have divine expectations that God could do supernatural things. And we're like, well, now I don't know about that. You believe in talking bushes. You believe whales swallow people. How could we be so religious that we don't believe that when I sing a song, he could show up? How could I be so religious I could believe that a bush could talk, but I don't believe I could connect with him through communion? I believe that a whale can swallow humans without killing them, but I can't believe he could do something divine through my offering? I believe that God can do all these supernatural things, but when I sit down with my Bible to do a devotion, it's just kind of boring. That's what I mean by divine expectation. We've gotten so involved with ourselves, so involved with me and my stuff, that the only time I really want God involved in my life is when me gets disappointed and I want him to step in and blow my mind so I can put on Facebook how he blew my mind. And as soon as the post is over, I'm back to myself being my own God. And I lose divine expectation. Ask yourself this, parents, this is for moms and dads. Do you build a home environment that has your kids expecting God to show up? Most kids today can fish and hunt and play sports, video games, probably know more about technology at 4 than you'll ever know. And I ask myself, because I have conversations with young people quite often, I ask myself how many parents are really waking up every day going, I need you to expect God to move today. How many of us parents, myself included, can our children say, my parents were a little weird, but I know this, God showed up in their life and I saw it. I saw God in my dad's life. I saw God in my mother. I saw God when they said she had cancer. I saw God when my father lost his mind and should have fallen apart. I saw God. We lose divine expectation. And what we expect rather than divine expectations, good luck. It's going to be a hellhole by the time you grow up. I don't envy these young people at all. You know why we say that? Because golly, I'm kind of thinking my own self, not you. I'm kind of thinking as I'm talking, like I'm seeing things in my own life, like, I got to work on that. So that's why I'm crying. I see me as I talk, like, I probably could do better there. But the reality is, what a sad state that our kids that we're raising in Christian homes wake up with no expectation that God could work. No expectation that God could do anything. I thank God that my mother is laid up in a hospital still living by faith. I go, God, I want that kind of faith. I want the faith that I don't quit when it gets hard. And here's why I can tell you my mother won't quit when it gets hard. Guaranteed, June Evans will not quit when it gets hard because my mother is panting for God even in the days that go well. The reason I know my bride is sitting on the back row, still pressing into God, when her own testimony is, I've had 3 fathers. I had one biological father that left my mother. I had another father that committed suicide after he adopted me. And my 3rd father was in prison, and he finally came around and loved me. And she still sits on the back row. Even after she had a diagnosis with cancer, she still preaches Jesus. Why? Because her divine expectation didn't show up only in the hell. She had a divine expectation before the hell ever hit. So when the hell hit, I'm like, I don't know, honey, but he's going to show up. I don't know when he's going to show up. I don't know how he's going to show up, but I know it every day at 5 o'clock he shows up. So I'm not about to let 2 o'clock throw me off my game. I'm not about to let 9 a.m. throw me off my game. I'm going to wake up in the middle of hell and go, well, I don't know when he's coming, but I know this. Surely the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, and his mercies are new every day. I don't know when he's showing up, but I know this. If his mercy is new every morning, every 24-hour cycle, he shows up. He just shows up. And the problem is, I get caught up in my 1 hour rather than his 24. And I start going, I don't think he showed up. I didn't see him show up today. My day was hell today. Honey, if you're a Christian, he doesn't show up. He lives in you. Wherever you are, he is. That's the beauty of the gospel, is that God said, Mark, you don't have to worry about me showing up at 5. I indwell you. I am Christ in you, the hope of glory. In other words, I can be in the middle of Publix line, and now you have to check yourself out. They ought to pay me. Like I walk up, I check myself out, and something doesn't go right. Honey, God is in me all the time. You are walking divine expectation. God has put you on this planet. And yet we sit down with our children and they hear us bemoan life and can't believe Trump got in. Thank God it's not Kamala. And then it's everything. Oh, it's so high. My God, milk's so high. I can't even afford to live. This nation we live in is going to hell in a handbasket. It ought to be time that some parents sit down and go, look, I'm going to help you out. Listen, now this is the side we choose. There's another side we don't choose. Don't worry about that right now. What I need you to know is no matter what side you're on, God's bigger. And let me tell you, now don't lie to him. Let me tell you how God has showed up in me. Let me tell you how the Lord showed up in my life. Let me tell you how it quit being Bible stories and it became a reality. I quit just reading Bible stories about fish and bushes. Let me tell you what God did with this old bush. Let me tell you what the Lord's done for me. Because I'll tell you what the devil cannot do. He can debate this all day, but he cannot debate your story, your story, your story, yours, 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 yours or yours. The devil has nothing on you, Rainey, when you stand up and go, let me tell you what he's done for me. And people may look at you like, you're an idiot, Rainey. And Rainey's like, I don't care what you think. I know him. And then they'll just either walk away going, well, I guess he's psycho. Or they'll meet Jesus. Divine expectation. It took me having to have a conversation with my 88-year-old dad. The reason I'm preaching this today isn't because I felt like it fit in this sermon. I started preaching it because I was sitting there listening to my 88-year-old father going, God, I've lost a little of that. I mean, I do preach every week, 3, 4 times a week. I mean, I do. But have I lost the expectation that every time we gather, every time I wake up, every red light, every green light, every challenge, every hardship, every trial, I don't know, just back up. Because I know He's here. And I know He's there. And I know because this is the word of the Lord for us. Last night was totally different, so this must be a word for somebody today. Be careful that you don't trade out the God of the universe at 2 p.m. because you lost expectation with Him. That you've gotten so busy that the only time you call out to Him is when you hit rock bottom. This is what He's calling you today. All praise to God the Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. It's by His great mercy we've been born again. Because God raised Him from the dead. Oh, I put it in green. This was the thing that rose in my heart. This is the thing I had to challenge myself. This is the thing I had to judge my own self and look in the mirror and ask myself, Mark, do you live with great expectation? And I was kind of fair to myself. I probably gave myself a 78. Like, I don't want to flunk, so I'm going to give myself a C. A high C. Because, we grade ourselves better than we should. I'll probably be a high C, maybe a low B. But it did make me think, and then I read this one, and I brought my C down a little bit more because this is what David said, I pant with expectation. When was the last time you panted with expectation? Not I panted in desperation. We've all done that. Oh, God. Everybody in the room's panted in desperation. But panted in expectation? Do you pant for Him that He's going to show up? Are you going to become a victim and throw in the towel and curse Him and deconstruct and quit? And only the statistic of our country, which is strange in this area, is that extreme church going that is considered a faithful member is once a month. That means if you come once a month, people feel like I'm a church attender. I go there, I go once a month. I'm good with that. Thank God you show up. But the reality is, if you only show up once a month, that doesn't feel much like you're panting for His presence, for His people, to worship with people, to sing together, and then I wake up on Monday like, oh, it's Monday, Jesus. God, I don't know. Versus waking up panting going, God, I got a hard week, but I know You're going to show up. The beauty of getting to preach to you is kind of fun because I get to repent before I preach. You know what I mean by that? It means I get to look in the mirror and go, I get it. I know. I get it. I get it. Church is good. Life is good. But Mark, do you pant for me? I mean, yeah, sort of. I pant more for playing guitar, but I do pant for you. So 2 weeks ago, I used to lead worship at church. For 17 plus years, I led worship. When Michael came in, I backed away. And I said, I'm not leading worship anymore. I'm going to let the younger generation come. But I felt like 2 weeks ago in a Wednesday night message, I was teaching on prayer. I felt the Lord say to me, I want you to get your guitar out. And I want you to begin to worship because as you do, I'm going to begin to inundate this place with my spirit and my healing. And I'm going to divinely heal people through your worship. So I said, okay, well, the thing you can thank me for is I don't do that publicly to you. But every day I get in here when nobody's here, I cut the sound system on, I plug into Michael's stuff, which I can't figure out, it's so over my head. But I plug in with my old guitar, and I just begin to go, You are the Lord, the famous one, great is Your name in all the earth. Hallelujah. And just for about an hour, just me, and I hope God shows up. I hope he's not out there going, that's not what I meant. Just me and God, because of a divine expectation of what God told me, that I believe if I did something silly, like show up when nobody's here and just worship, that he would show up when people are here and he would heal them. So last night, after Georgia lost and Alabama won, I'm just saying, I'm not. I get a text message at 9:26 p.m. from someone in South Georgia that said this: "Hey, brother, sorry for texting you so late. I was just worshiping, and the Lord dropped you in my spirit. The Lord says he sees you tonight, and he loves it when you worship him with simple worship. I don't know what you're going through, but I really feel like there's something for you in the secret place of worship just between you and the Lord. You just sitting before him with your guitar and a song in your heart. It's in those places he's going to minister to you as he ministers to all of us. Bless you tonight." Bow your head and close your eyes. I don't understand things like that when I can decide to do something that I tell nobody of. I didn't even tell Robin. I just pick my guitar up and God speaks to a random person. "Mark, you need to expect me to show up." I simply want to ask you this today. Have you become religious and lost expectation? Has somebody stood in your way? Have you gotten distracted by hurt, people, life? Are you busy? Lost the expectation of a 5 o'clock visit? Because you're in hell at 11 a.m. and I can't wait 6 more hours. Mark, I can't wait another hour. I mean, I'm desperate. I understand, been there, done that. But the word of the Lord to this house today is, have you lost a hunger for me? Have you stopped expecting me in your life? Have you become your own God, your own feelings, your own dreams, your own visions? Do your children pant after Jesus? When they go to school, do they go to school with knowing that they're the light of the world, that they can expect something divine beyond just flunking a test or passing a test? God's going to show up today, Mark. I remember when I came home to my mother in college and said, I got to drop out. Why? I'm going to flunk out. Mom, I can't do English. I just can't. It's too hard. I don't get it. She said, sit down right here, son. She opened her Bible, old red Schofield Bible, turned to Daniel chapter 1. She said, I want to read something to you. It says, Daniel purposed in his heart to serve God, and God made him 10 times wiser. Mark, if you will purpose in your heart to serve God and put him first in your life, God will make you 10 times wiser, and you'll have to worry about nothing else. I said that night to my mother, that afternoon, I said, Mom, for the rest of my life, I will always put God first. I will put him over tests. I will put him over work. I will put him over everything. And I started doing that. I started showing up. I started worshiping him. I started giving more. I started working in the church and whatever I could do for him. And lo and behold, just like God told Daniel, this old boy graduated with honors, went on to grad school, graduated with honors, went to grad school the second time, graduated with a 4.0, and I was going to drop out of school because I lost the expectation that God is bigger than my inabilities. That God is bigger than my fears. God is bigger than my failures. God is bigger than my frustrations. God is bigger than me being a victim. And I begin to expect Him to show up. I remember even having prayers over my test. God, I don't know if I can do this, but Mom said, she read that verse, that I could be 10 times wiser if I'd put you first. So before I take this test, I just ask you to help me. Help me remember everything I studied. Help me bring it back. Let me understand it. Lo and behold, never made a failed grade again. Do you have that expectation today? Or are you on the brink of disaster, thinking about divorce and frustrations and how you're going to make it in the future? If you really want to know, sometimes it can be the most concerning thing is to go home and ask your children, because usually kids tell you the truth. Do you kids have any expectation of God in our lives? If so, where do you see God in Mom and Dad? Do you see His reality in our lives? Not what kind of beer I like or what kind of barbecue I like or what football team I'm cheering for, but do you see God in me, son? Do you see God in me, honey? And just let Him answer. It's not that God's mad at you, but He may be letting you know that you're stuck at 2 o'clock and you need to let that go. Stand up.